grow like the trees. I choose to live in love. I am joy, I am ease. I sing like the birds. I grow like the trees. I choose to live in love. I am joy, I am ease. Om Shri Lakshmi Mahadevi Namaha. 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 I choose no more fear. I choose no more shame. I choose to live in love. I am light, I am grace. I choose no more fear. I choose no more shame. I choose to live in love. I am light, I am grace. Om Shri Lakshmi Mahadevi Namaha. 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 Yeah, I sing like the birds. I grow like the trees. I choose to live in love. I am joy, I am peace. I choose no more fear. No more fear. I choose no more shame. I choose to live in love. I am light, I am grace. Om Shri Lakshmi Mahadevi Namaha. 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 I walk softly on this earth in the light of God's name. I choose to live in love. I am joy, I am peace.
Good morning, First Unity. I am Barbara Berger, one of your chaplains here, and I am going to be reading a passage actually from one of my books, Keeping My Heart Open. And I thought it was just perfect for today. I'm on a lake, I'm thinking of you, and here we go. Settle in, relax, start your day. I'm here right before the sunrise, perfect time to meditate. Relax. Creation is here all around us. Hearts beating, plants growing, sun almost shining. Today, we are divinely appointed to be here on this lawn or wherever you are sitting right now this morning. All of the animals making their presence known, alive. We open ourselves up to the middle of life and love. Feel the breeze, feel the sun, feel the earth. Just this, being alive, one with nature. Drop yourself in. Go deep inside, to the middle. Connect with your soul. Feel love, love of all existence, love that makes it all worth it. This very spot is our place in the universe right now. We are safe. Why me? Why here? Why now? We have been called to be here today, one day at a time, one love, for a reason. Everything is new. Let's connect with this knowledge of spiritually coexisting together. We are all here for a reason, to immerse ourselves in love. Let's settle into silence. Namaste. Have a wonderful Sunday.
Good morning and welcome to Father's Day service. I am so grateful to be with all of you. What a crazy, busy, and interesting weekend it has been. I tell you what, we are in the midst of some sure enough shaking and quaking in our world, friends, and I'm really asking us to stay awake, aware, and alert, to not become alarmed. Do your best not to become alarmed. People who become alarmed tend to be the people who are called to arms. Be very careful of that. There's a lot of that already happening, a lot of violence and violent attitude and energy swirling around in the world. So we don't need more of that. Make sure that you're staying awake and aware and alert. But watch that alarm. Be very careful about that. Let's stay in this, knowing that this is all going to in some way work together for the highest good. That there's an unfolding that's happening right now. There's an awakening that's taking place right now. And these are some of the birthing pains of that. So do our best. Let's do our best to be mindful of it. This is Father's Day. So I wanted to share with you a few thoughts around fathering, around divine masculinity, understanding it and not understating how important it is for the men in our life to be recognized. But give me just a moment, because our cat this weekend, he is acting like a 2-year-old who needs much, much attention. So speaking of being a dad, that's what I'm going to do right now, because we're live here. I'm going to let him out back because he wants to go back outside. Give me a moment. There you go, buddy. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. I don't want to overstate how important it is for men to really show up in your divine masculinity right now. Now, this is not taken away from women. Women, obviously, fantastic, powerful beings. The divine feminine, very important, actually completely and totally necessary for us to have a beautiful balance of both divine masculine and divine feminine. Today, I want to speak to the masculinity, and I want to talk to the peaceful warriors. This is Father's Day and divine masculinity. Understanding it, understanding what it means to be a peaceful warrior, and starting to step into the truth of who you are in your power and in your ability. In the metaphysical world, the meaning of being a father really extends beyond just biological roles. It goes deeper. It deals with the symbolic significance of the father figure. It encompasses the concepts around creation, around guidance, around protection, and even the transmission of values and core values, helping to lead to a strengthening of one's ability to develop authenticity. Authenticity leads to integrity. And in the metaphysical teachings, it also draws parallels between the father figure in the world and the ultimate father and source of all. Jesus referred to God as Father more than anything else. That was Jesus's approach of talking about God as the Father. Now, we all know in our belief system here, and we hold beliefs very loosely, but in our belief systems and in our approach, that God is in fact neither male nor female, and yet has both essences within it, and then expresses those essences through us. And each one of us in our own life, some will have a female body in terms of parts biologically looking female, but will identify heavier with masculinity. And the same can be true for those who are born with the more masculine or male attributes, appendages, may identify more, though, with the feminine. And so I'm not really harping as much on that today, because I think we all know that here in our community, that this is so much bigger than just the body, the biology. But I do want to speak to men, though, to males specifically, because I do believe that's a group of people who are starting to feel lost in the mix of what is taking place politically and progressively in the world. And I want to speak to that because I think it's important for us to not lose our place in the world just because there's been some not so good actions. And we could even go as far as to say some really bad actions from males in our world. But looking back at the metaphysical approach, it's about guidance, it's about creation, it's about protection, and these are characteristics. And it draws parallels with the divine. In essence, a father is, in the metaphysical sense, can be seen as a source of life or a life giver, a guide on spiritual path, and a reflection of divine love and provision. Today, though, I want to celebrate men, the male person, both biologically and in essence, because too often the men who have abused their position of power and men who have abused women and children have created opportunity to see all men as suspect to do and to be the same. And I want you to know that within every single one of us, male or female, is the propensity to either be operating on a high vibrational field or operating on a low vibrational field. And it's simply not true that just because there have been many men who have abused their position in this life, that all men are that way. There are so many wonderful men in the world, and they should be honored. And today I do that. And I also invite men, fathers, whether you're fathers biologically or not, whether you ever want to sire children into the world or not, I want to invite you into healthy masculinity through something I call aiming with purpose, aiming with strength, and aiming with grace. And this idea came sitting at the beach, and we were trying to decide what could we give as an acknowledgement to the men in our community. Because on Mother's Day, we gave flowers. At first I told Carrie, let's just give flowers to the men too. We love flowers, we love beauty. And then we got to thinking about it, what would we give? And it came to mind, let's give them arrowheads. Actually, I was looking online and looking at unique gifts to give to men as an acknowledgement, and that's what came up. And I started to delve deeper into arrowheads, and not just the actual mechanism, the actual thing, but what it represented. And it represented aiming with purpose, aiming with strength, and aiming with grace. And tying into that was my friend, Dr. David Alexander. He wrote in his Substack this last week something he titled, and this is just a portion of it, From Myth to Man, Reimagining Strength. So we're talking about aiming with purpose, with strength, and with grace. And he titled his Substack, From Myth to Man, Reimagining Strength. And here's something he wrote that stood out to me, and I wanted to share it with you today. What if we honored the strength it takes? I'm talking to men now. What if we honored the strength it takes to listen, to apologize, to stay in the discomfort of vulnerability? I'm going to ask those questions again. What if we honored the strength it takes to really listen, to really apologize, and to stay in the discomfort of vulnerability? I'm talking about as men. Most of us were taught by our fathers, who were taught by their fathers, and going back many generations, to not be vulnerable, because to be vulnerable meant you were weak. And if you were vulnerable, you could be taken advantage of. and you needed to be strong and powerful. You needed to be a warrior. And I'll agree that in these times we need to take on, in some cases, the position of a warrior. But peaceful warriors are those who know how to listen. They know how to apologize and not to qualify that apology. Let me tell you something, men. When you apologize to your partner, your wife, your husband, your children, anyone else in your life, when you apologize and then you try to justify right behind it, you negate the apology. When you apologize something like this, when you say, well, honey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do such and such, that's enough. Don't go further and say, but if you hadn't have, because that's narcissism, that's bypassing, and that's not being vulnerable, and it's not really a real apology. Dr. David goes on to say, Jesus, arguably the most famous man in Christian history, he did not ride into power on a war horse. Please hear this, because many people think that their power is in the strength of their force. But he didn't ride, Jesus, arguably the most famous man in Christian history, didn't ride into Jerusalem on a war horse. He rode in on a donkey. That was strategic, and it was symbolic that Jesus did that. He didn't climb the ladder of Roman success. In fact, he overturned tables. And he overturned the tables of those who were stealing from the most vulnerable. And Jesus went on to teach, when you've done it unto the least of these, you've done it unto me. And he was talking about welcoming the stranger, feeding the hungry, giving water to those who are thirsty, visiting those who are incarcerated, visiting those who are bound. Jesus didn't climb the ladder of Roman success. He overturned the tables. And when faced with the ultimate expression of imperial masculinity, state-sanctioned violence, he refused to return it in kind. In fact, he let them nail him to a cross, publicly displaying that this power he had was greater than the power of empire, and went as far consciously to pray, forgive them, for they know not what they do. True masculinity is not threatened by tenderness. True masculinity is not threatened by generosity and compassion. True masculinity is not threatened by being able to admit when you're incorrect. It is not measured by aggression. It is not measured by a man's capacity. Actually, it is measured by a man's capacity to be accountable, emotionally available, spiritually grounded, and willing to evolve. Willingness to learn and expand takes tremendous bravery. Can you hear that? The willingness to learn and expand takes tremendous, I'll say this, courage, confidence, and bravery. Being able to be humble requires strength. It is not weakness. True strength, I hope you can hear this morning, true strength is not domination. It is devotion. What we're seeing presented on the big scale in our world right now from several men is not strength. It is insecurity shrouded in pseudo strength. But true strength does not dominate. It is devoted. Devotion to being your best self, your true self, devotion to your family, devotion to your community, and devotion to your neighbors. And when it's time to stand up and flex, a true man does so in response to bullies, not to be one. And so how do we embrace healthy masculinity and begin to understand ourselves in terms of what it means to be like an arrow? Well, as I said to you earlier, we become aligned with purpose. We start to hone our strength, and we become released from the heart mind of God with grace towards a worthy target. Number one, being drawn back for greater launch. You may feel like you're going backwards when you're really trying to find out the truth of your masculinity. It may feel like you're going backwards because of the way you've been taught. But just as an arrow must be drawn back on the bow before it is propelled forward, life challenges us with setbacks. But they can be opportunities for growth and preparation. A setback isn't a punishment. A setback is preparation. In fact, affirm this with me. The setback was a setup for my comeback. Type that into the comments. The setback was a setup for my comeback. Many of us as men are still trying to figure out who we are because we were dismantled, we were dismembered mentally and emotionally, and we're trying to remember the truth of who we are. That's what happens when we heal that daddy or that father wound. And we began to understand that just like an arrow is drawn back for a greater launch, in order for us to heal and really press into our divine masculinity, there may be a little bit of drawing back or the feeling of drawing back. But it is not punishment, it is preparation. And that setback is a setup for your comeback. When we're faced with difficulties, don't despair. View them as pulling back. The tension is building before you are launched forward with a renewed focus, with renewed intention. I like to say it this way: don't despair, repair, and then prepare to reappear as your authentic masculine true self. And then number two, the arrow represents our powerful masculinity in a targeted purpose. In other words, a reason to be here. I have a target in mind. A well-aimed arrow has a target, and healthy masculinity means aligning your actions with your clear purpose toward that target, living in accordance with your core values, and contributing to the well-being of not just yourself, but others. Your aim is only accurate from authenticity. And authenticity is living your truth fully. Your aim is accurate from authenticity, so living fully in your genuineness is paramount to that aim and to reaching that goal. Like an arrow in the archer's hand, consider how you can be an instrument of God's purpose, reflecting and representing your faith and make a positive impact on the world around you. You are here on purpose with a destiny to unfold and to be hurled through time and targeted toward a particular purpose. Number three, it represents strength and resilience. You are coded with divine nature. You are ingrained with divine power and strength. Arrows symbolize strength and resilience. We learn this from our native brothers and sisters. If you look back at the tradition and you look at the spiritual representation of the arrowhead, there are many of the indigenous tribes in the United States, in the American land before the United States arrived. There's a lot of symbolism around understanding that the arrowhead represents strength and healing and resilience. The arrow's a symbol of strength, the arrowhead, and resilience. Much like healthy masculinity embraces the ability to face challenges head on and bounce back from adversity. When we get into our divine masculinity, we learn how to move through this life and be able to bounce back from the adversity that we see in the world. We become less reactive when we're healed, and we become more responsible and more resilient because we're living in our true strength. Instead of being defined by rigid stereotypes, healthy masculinity allows a full range of emotions, vulnerability, but it expands our capacity to adapt, to evolve, and to grow. And in doing so, we give permission, especially to our children, to do the same. And number four, an arrow is released with intention and grace. The release of the arrow symbolizes action and intention. And healthy masculinity encourages action that aligns with your purpose and your core values. Healthy masculinity encourages action through compassion, through authenticity and kindness. Start living intentionally rather than accidentally. When we're living accidentally, and many of us men have done this because we weren't really given direction from our fathers, they didn't have direction themselves. Many of them were bumbling about, literally living out of the reptilian brain, which is just doing everything it can to survive. This is why they could do offspringing well. They could have sex, find a bunch of folks to have sex with, spreading the seed around, creating all kinds of babies, because other than that, they didn't know, many of them, what else to do. They weren't living in that healthy masculinity. But this encourages us to take action through compassion, through authenticity, and through kindness, and start living intentionally rather than accidentally. As men, many times we're going through life living accidentally, and this is why we end up in so many accidents. We end up in so many crashes because we're not living intentionally. I know the feeling. I understand what it is to bumble about trying to figure out who you are because your father was not available emotionally in your life. But like an arrow flying true, strive to live with integrity, letting your actions reflect your beliefs. The most important way to do that is by discovering your true self and living from that essence. Authenticity leads to integrity. The men in this world, including myself, at one time in at the beginning, especially of my adult life and through my teen years, integrity, I didn't understand even what it meant because I didn't have any level of authenticity in my life. Let me help us here. When you as a male begin to live in authenticity, you become the author of your own story instead of your dad or your granddad or the other men in your life who weren't available emotionally to you writing your story and telling you this is how it is to be a man. You start to authentically write your own story because authenticity, authority, and author all have the same root word. And when you live from authenticity, you start to live from integrity. Also remember, when I'm talking about this, because some of you maybe right now, there's a point of shame or guilt in your life because you feel like you have not actually been a person of integrity. Remember that self-judgment never has and it never will help you to heal or to create growth. Self-judgment only compounds the wounding and it keeps you from actually healing. Start to see in your life the missteps as opportunities, not failures. Start to see and perceive your mistakes as opportunities for a retake. Learn and grow from them instead of judging yourself because of them. Here's the thing. When you judge yourself for an action, I'm not saying that you don't take responsibility when you wrong someone. That's not what I'm saying. But when you continue to judge yourself for that action, you're never going to draw the wisdom out of it because you're going to lodge it in a filing cabinet in your mind where bad stuff goes, and bad stuff you don't want to revisit. If you dub it as bad, and if you dub yourself as bad, and if you judge yourself and you live in that state of judgment, you'll never be able to draw the wisdom out of those perceived failures. See your missteps as opportunities. Learn and grow from them. Allow the wisdom from each situation to unfold fully into the recipe of your life. I know I've said this to you before, and maybe it just works for me as a way to outpicture this. But not every individual ingredient in a cake is desirable to eat on its own. So this is what I'm saying, like those angry outbursts, those failures that you've experienced, those inabilities to be honest with yourself and honest with those around you. Those things, of course, we look at those and we go, yeah, but John, those are not good. Well, neither is eating a stick of butter by itself. Well, I don't know. Some people may argue that. But neither is taking a spoonful of cocoa powder and eaten it on its own. But if you stir it all up into the ingredients, you can create something quite amazing. And this is what I mean by not judging yourself, but living authentically from that space of being able to apologize, but then not stay stuck in the rut of that one experience. Glean out of it the wisdom that is necessary to throw into the recipe of the rest of your life. So to summate all of this up, if you're living in authentic and healthy masculinity, and you can see that as an arrow, you can learn to embrace the challenges as preparations for your launch. Some of us have never left the launching pad because we're afraid. We live in fear. And then we shroud that. We overcompensate that insecurity and fear, and it ends up coming out in anger or withdrawal. It can be either one. Sometimes we're too overly angry with our children or our spouses. We're too overly angry with the world because they're trying to work this out, or we just withdraw. Another way to live out that father wound instead of healing it, because what you don't heal, you'll repeat. Can I say that one more time? What we don't heal, we'll repeat. I'm not talking to you as a psychologist. I'm talking to you from experience. Anything in my life that I have not healed goes on repeat. And what you don't heal, if you don't heal the hurt, if you don't transform it, you'll transfer it into every relationship in your life. So this is why it's important for us to embrace challenges and prepare for the launch. The challenges are never punishment. They're always preparation. Even sometimes sent to soften us rather than add to the rigidity. It reduces the rigidity. Allow the challenge to soften you. And then define your purpose and start living from intention. Live intentionally, not accidentally. Cultivate your strength and resilience in the face of adversity. Know that nothing is happening to you. Nothing is happening to me because I'm not a victim. I believe everything is happening for me. I choose to be an alchemist in this life. I choose alchemy over agony. And then lastly, act from integrity by aligning your actions with your core values from a place of authenticity. Integrity is directly connected to your authenticity, to you being able to be genuine, you being able to be fully you. The world's going to throw challenges. It's already doing that. Been doing that. Many of you are walking around with a gaping wound that was given to you more than likely by a father who didn't even realize what he was doing. Not just men, but women as well, walking around with that wound. They weren't available. Many of them weren't available to themselves. In fact, if they weren't available to themselves, they couldn't be available to you. They didn't have the capacity. Heal that wound today and allow yourself to begin to walk in this assurance. At some point, Carl Jung said this, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't remember the exact quote. Carl Jung said, at some point in your life, you're going to need to become your own parent. Basically by waking up and saying, how would I parent that young self? In fact, Jungian psychology is what led to writing a letter to your father or to your mother and writing a letter to your adolescent self. And that's where that exercise came in. And it's actually a very effective exercise. So consider doing that. Write a letter to your father, whether he is alive or not. Write that letter. Say all of the things that you would have said that you just maybe didn't feel brave enough to say, or then you finally felt like you would just hurt their feelings too much, so you didn't do it. Write that letter. Write all the cuss words if you have to. Say all of the stuff that you feel like you didn't get a chance to say. Lift your voice. Open up that throat chakra by doing that. Write the letter. And you can give it to them if you would like. But if not, if you don't give it to them, just burn it. And burn it. Make it a ceremony saying, I'm laying this to rest. No longer will I be bound by the things I didn't say. Choose instead to live in victory. St. Paul wrote to the church in Rome, and he said to them, be reassured that all things work together for the highest good to those who love God and are called according to God's purpose. Metaphysically, what he was saying there is if you really love your divinity, your divine self, you'll start to realize that all of these things are working together for your highest good. And out of that, you'll be able to fuel your purpose. Here's a Father's Day poem that I'll share with you. I never was into writing poems before, but for the last 2 weeks, I've been writing poems. Who knows? Maybe it's a new part of my journey. This one's called Father's Day and the Arrow's Flight. A bowstring hums, a whispered call. The arrow waits, prepared for all. Not fear nor doubt, nor weight of the past. Just steady aim, its purpose cast. Preparation, not punishment. Each challenge faced is heaven sent. The wind, the rain, the bending wood are shaping strength where once you stood. Purpose lives in presence now. No future ghost, no past furrowed brow. The archer breathes, his hand is sure, the target clear, the focus pure. Resilience rises, forged in flame. No victim's cry, no whispered blame. The storm may howl, the earth may shake, but arrows turn what breaks to break. Not agony, but alchemy, a golden path where others flee. Integrity, not rigid right, but truth that bends like willows might. No mask to wear, no more role to play, just you unflinching, day by day. So fathers, sons, and those who rise, be arrows drawn through open skies. Your path is yours, your strength is true. Fly bold, fly far, because the world needs you. So today, as you think about Father's Day, to those who are biologically fathers, to those who have filled that gap for others, you've been in essence a father figure, and to those who are aspiring to be fathers, the world needs you to show up with your full authenticity. The world needs you to know, or needs to know that it is safe with you because it needs your protection. It needs your guidance. And please remember this, true strength is not domination. It is devotion. And it is devotion to being your best self, devotion to your family, devotion to your community, and devotion even to your neighbors. Knowing that when it's time to stand up and flex, that a true man does so in response to bullies, not to be one. So embrace your healthy masculinity and understand the truth of who you are. Allow yourself to be someone who shows up in their authenticity, because the world needs you now as much as ever. All right, my friends, thank you for being here today. Thank you for being a part of this community. Happy Father's Day once again to all of you fathers out there and to those who are aspiring to be fathers. Again, whether biologically or just in essence, you've shown up to be a father figure, maybe in someone else's life. Maybe you're fathering your own self. Maybe you're a woman who is healing that father wound in you by fathering your own self. I'm talking to you too then. Allow that masculine energy and divine masculine to rise up within you as well and give you that purpose, give you that strength, and give you that grace. All right, friends, I'm going to get up out of here now. The ways to give are about to be introduced to you just on the other side. And I want to say again, thank you for being here and thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you for being a sustaining partner with this ministry. If you're joining us for our 11 o'clock service today, we look forward to seeing you at the Benninger Auditorium at Eckerd College. I love you all so much. Now go and make it a great week just because you can. Peace. Hey family, thank you for joining us today for our telecast. And thank you for being a sustaining partner with First Unity Spiritual Campus. The number one way to give is to text to give, 833-691-6105. And you can text the word give. Number 2, the First Unity app, and then tap that yellow heart. And number 3, go to firstunity.org/give. And this also gives you the option to have a subscription giving, which is automatic each month. That means you can budget it into your monthly budget and not even have to think about it. It comes out automatically. The fourth way to give is to mail to P.O. Box 13293, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33733. The number 5 way to give is through Cash App. That's right, through Cash App, $ First Unity, SC. $ First Unity, SC. Also, you can use the QR code that is on the screen right now. You can scan that code and be taken to our safe and secure website for your giving. Once again, allow me to say thank you so much for being a sustaining partner with this ministry of love. Have a wonderful day. Now there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Now there is peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Now there is peace on earth. Yes, this is the moment now. With every step I take, yes, this is my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Now there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. And our prayer of protection together, the light of God surrounds us. I am the light. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love. The power of God protects us. I am the power. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so it is, so it is. I love you. Make it a great week just because you can.